All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Talkin' Halos. I am your host today, Jared Timms, and hello Twitter, or hello YouTube. Wow, I said it wrong right to begin with. Twitter will probably see this too, but this is a little bit different for us. I told you guys as we were coming into the new year, we're going to switch things up a little bit, and I'm hoping that this is going to work. This is kind of our test episode here with everybody. I think you guys can probably see Brock Davis is back, Nate's back. Told you guys we're going to get John back. I've been talking with Derek. Derek's going to be coming back on once football season has come to conclusion. Hopefully the Rams have won a Super Bowl championship for Derek, so he can be extremely excited for that. But guys, I am super excited. Like I said, first off, hopefully this works. Second off, let's start with Brock. Brock, how you doing, my friend? It's been a little while. Clue us in on what's going on. I know that I believe you're getting married.
Yeah, so my life has been a whirlwind. Man, it's been crazy. Like you said, I got engaged a while ago. It's been like a year and a half, but we've been planning the wedding. I got promoted to supervisor at my job. And I finished 2 associate degrees and all this year. So my 2021 was very productive, and I'm just hoping that I think 2022 is going to be focused on personal and fun and this podcast. And we're building a house this year, getting married this year, going to Bali for our honeymoon this year. And I just bought a bunch of baseball gear because it all got stolen a couple years back, and I'm joining a men's league in March. So I'm going to play some ball.
What position? I know we've been over this before because I think we talked about this, and you played in high school. Could have played in college. What position did you play?
I love shortstop and third base and pitching. Those are my 3. But my arm hurt like immediately today after throwing like 20 pitches. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh man, I'm not looking forward to the next time I have to throw. We'll see when that is. I have no idea. But Nate, I see you with the headphones on. We get to see our ugly mugs this time. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited for this YouTube.
I don't know if I'm excited for that. That's rough.
Yeah, now you guys don't just get to hear us. You guys get to actually see us and see, what we do, what we're, how we roll. It's probably gonna be a little bit easier on us though, guys, because I can be like, hold on, wait a second, you're wrong.
And you can just point to people. Makes it easy.
And vice versa, instead of us just being on audio. But yeah, if you're listening to this on, wherever you're listening to it, Apple, Spotify, go give us a watch on YouTube. Like I said, hopefully, I'm hoping that this is all going to pan out and this is going to work. I believe it's going to be Talkin' Halos on YouTube. But I didn't even ask you, Nate, how you doing?
It's going well. Fantasy championship is this weekend, so it's been a long weekend just trying to sweat that out. It's been rough.
Yeah, it's been a rough day for me too, this fantasy championship Sunday. And Brock, let's get back to you. I know you had a kind of interesting story. You're playing some MLB The Show, and you ran into Talkin' Halos fan. Who was it? I'm intrigued to know. Was it the guy who said that I'm a bad host?
I sure hope not. He did say that he did like Nate, which is awesome because obviously, Nate was our latest addition to the show, and obviously he's left a good impression. He's been more consistent than I sure as hell have been. But Judge Holden 85, shout out to him. We played MLB The Show together, and I don't want to get either of us in trouble, but he helped me out, and he deserves a shout out. So Judge Holden 85, or Adam, I won't say your last name for anonymity if I said that word right. But I'm back. You said you wanted me back, and here I am. And hopefully this year we'll keep you listening every week, like you said you are. So thank you for being a fan. Thank you for listening. It was fun playing you, and yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. It's always good to hear that, that we actually have some type of fan, some type of following. And I'm hoping, like I said, with this YouTube thing and you guys being able to see our ugly faces, because I think we might be the ugliest 3 on YouTube now. But we're not, we definitely have radio voices or radio faces, for and it is what it is, boys, but we'll make it work. I'm excited for this. This is kind of a new step for Talkin' Halos, and now we're going to be making a lot more new steps. You'll actually be able to see our guests when we have them on. So I have quite a few lined up now, and I'm excited to get them on, and you guys can talk or can see them and everything. So let's, guys, start off with our question of the day before we get anything else rolling. I asked it last night on Twitter. I'm going to ask it to you guys. Let's start with Nate, because I think I talked to Brock first. Would you change the current MLB playoff formation, and what would you do to it if you would?
Yeah, I think I'd change it just a little bit. I think the biggest thing is I would like to see one more team in each league, and then a best of three, and just kind of let them all play each other. I think that it really sucks the one game playoffs. You basically get one game, which I mean that's what everybody wanted. That's what MLB wanted. That's why they got that. But I think for everything that the extra team just makes it a little bit more exciting. And you know, you, you want to give the number one team an advantage, but you don't want to give them such a big advantage where they're getting to play at home and then they get to start their ace on top of that. So I think allowing everyone to kind of even up the playing field a little bit would make it a little bit better. But
Yeah. No, I know you mentioned it before that we talked about having kind of like the NFL does it. I'm kind of not in agreement with that just because of the point that you gave right away right there was, like the ace is going to be ready. If the Yankees per se, are able to be the number one seed, they have Garrett Cole or whoever they want to throw right away. I mean, it's kind of a big disadvantage. But then again, I guess there probably should be for the number one seed, right? I mean, you're the best team in baseball. And then again, you look at what happened this year in the NL West with the Giants and Dodgers. The Dodgers would just got screwed over for winning 106 games or something like that. It's the second best team in baseball by one game. And it is what it is. So Brock, I'll throw it off to you. Would you make any changes to the current playoff format?
See, my answer is going to be boring because I'm pretty much in agreement with Nate that I want some small adjustments, and I've always been kind of torn on the wild card game or series or whatever you want to call it, just because the one game do or die is so intense, right? I couldn't even imagine. I mean, if the Angels made the one game wild card, dude, I'd be sweating bullets. I'd be like, do or die. This is nuts. And I would probably hate it. But watching it as a baseball fan with other teams, it's more entertaining for me because I'm like, hey, you got to do your best, put it all out there. You got one game, do or die. But I feel like if the Angels were there, I'd be like, this should be a series. This is BS. So I feel like it should be best of three for the wild card. That's definitely one. It's tough to say. I feel like there should be a bigger advantage for number one seed teams. So I do kind of like the NFL formatting of it just because because the number one seed gets the bye, right? That's really the argument here with the NFL. So like you said, obviously if they're number one seed and they're going to be playing, say, 6 seed, they're going to be having a huge advantage over them because they're going to be probably coming right out of the wild card series, 2 out of 3, maybe even pitching their maybe 2 guy, maybe even like 4th guy, possibly, depending. It's going to be tough for that 6 seed to compete with facing 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 of the next team. But like you said, if you go out and you win 110 games and you're playing a team that went to wild card and won 86, like,
Perks of being the best team, right?
right. So it's like you don't want it to be so fair to the point where, well, what's the point of even being the best? You get what I'm saying? It's like you all make the playoffs, but okay, the seeds are cool, but if the seed is basically getting no advantage or anything over the other team other than home field advantage, which we could argue all day whether that makes a humongous difference in the playoffs or not. I don't think it really does, depending on where it is and who the teams are. But I kind of agree with Nate that minor tweaks, nothing crazy, not necessarily an expanded playoffs, but just maybe one more team, best of 3, just like Nate said. And I like the fact that the first team would get a bye.
It's kind of interesting actually that you mentioned the home field advantage, and it's something that I think that a lot of people don't think about. I mean, we can go to the Astros. That's fine. Like that's home field advantage. It is what it is. They cheated. It is what it is. But don't you normally I feel like GMs will make their teams around the home field, right? I mean, that's just my thought about it. So maybe there actually is a home field advantage, at the end of the day, like if the Texas Rangers were made it to the playoffs next year, they're going to have huge home field advantage with that pitching. And they played in that ballpark for 82 games. They know the bounces, they know the rolls. Like you look at Angel Stadium, if you bunt a ball down the third baseline, the ball's probably going to stay fair. That's not the same. That's not, how it works at every ballpark. Or I think for me, in a sense, with the home field advantage, you have to look at how you made your team. Like the Yankees made their team to just hit the balls as far as they freaking can. Like 1 through 9, they're just going to go hit home runs because of that ballpark. The ball's going to fly there. The Rangers are making a pitching dominant team. I mean, now they've added a few other guys, but I just think the home field advantage is kind of missed upon in a sense. And Nate, I know for some strange reason, you're going to kind of agree with me on this one. I have a weird feeling, but I don't know. You know, that's just kind of my thought on it. I think that a lot of teams build around their ballpark nowadays, which is really, really smart. And it's something that I feel like it's hard for the Angels to do because the Angels don't have – what's the Angels' feature? Like, do they really have a short porch in right field for Shohei Ohtani? I mean, yes, kind of now they do, but not really. I mean, pitching has been a big thing, but they haven't really built on the pitching side of things. I just – you know, I mean, Mike Trout, they haven't moved the fences in center field for him to hit bombs in center field. I don't know. I think that's
so I have an interesting idea now that we're talking about this, because I do think that home field advantage has, you know, like you said, they build their teams around it. Obviously, you know, if I guess because you know how they play the certain divisions of interleague every year, so then maybe they're more fresh on a certain field. It's all about timing, right? If you go to the World Series and you're like, oh, we played at NL West this year, we're playing against the Padres. We played here however many times this year, we know how it works or whatever. But my idea is do it exactly how it's been before, right? With home field advantage and everything for wild card, division, and championship. But when it gets to the World Series, have a neutral stadium like football.
That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I like it for a one game, like the Super Bowl. Like that's cool. You know, that's fine with me. That's where it's at, is that one place. I don't know. Nate, what do you got on a neutral site for a World Series?
The only reason I'm not a fan of it is because of depending on where it's at, it's a huge advantage for a specific team. I mean, that's one of my big reasons for saying the Dodgers didn't win a World Series, is because they got to play 20 straight games in Texas. Like, what other team got to play 20 straight games in Texas? Nobody. They were the only team. So they had a big advantage with that. So if, let's say, the neutral site is Minnesota, and for some reason the White Sox end up in the World Series, it's like, hey, we played 25 games in Minnesota this year. I know exactly how to play. I know exactly what to do, this and that. Where you get a National League team who comes in and it's like, I haven't played in Minnesota yet. It's like, well, yeah, I guess that's probably fair because, you know, every 6 years it could take. So you could have some team who has never played in Minnesota, and you get the White Sox in there, or maybe even the Yankees, who it's like, oh, we played in Minnesota, 12 times this year. So that's the only thing where in the NFL, it's not as big of a deal. I mean, the fans are going to come no matter what because it's one game. You're not going to get the same fans in 7 games. Those guys have to work and things like that. It's not going to be on a weekend. So for me, I think the way that things are going, I like it. The only thing that we haven't talked about would be maybe getting rid of divisions. And I think that's something that could be talked about, especially if you're going to add 2 extra teams, which I think needs to happen. I think expansion needs to happen. The Nashville team's coming. They're going to add 1 more team. I don't know, probably Montreal would be my guess, but who knows with that. And then what's the point of divisions at that point? Just take the 6, 7 best teams, 8 best teams, however many you're taking, from the American League and from the National League, and just let them play. And then you don't have to worry about, oh man, the Dodgers got second place, but they won 106 games. Well, they're the number 2 seed. They had an opportunity to beat the Giants and they didn't. Tough luck.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, this is something that we're all going to find out with this new CBA. I think that this kind of all gets resolved with the new CBA. I don't know. That's kind of my thought on this. And I'm intrigued. I'm glad that we kind of went deep on this. Normally the first question is just kind of one to get us into it, but I guess we've missed a lot since the year.
I don't like the neutral stadium idea. I'm just spitballing here, because especially now thinking about what Nate's saying and thinking about the fact of, like, say the Angels made the World Series and it was a neutral stadium and it was it was Minnesota. We'll just use Nate's example. Dude, I'm not going to Minnesota for 7 games. You get what I'm saying? So that part
I was thinking about the weather too, like
and that, yeah.
with Rob Manfred, why are you not having the World Series at Yankee Stadium too? I mean, granted, it's going to be cold there, but I mean, balls are still going to fly out. Or Colorado, the ball's going to fly out there. Like your TV ratings are going to go off the chart because I mean, you can put the World Series at a spot where balls are going to fly. I mean, Houston, the ball's going to go. Cincinnati, there are places where you can put the World Series every single season, and it would be like, well, scores are going to be 30-20. I mean, not really, but you know what I'm saying. Like the ball's going to fly. So yeah, I'm the neutral site's interesting, and we saw it during the 2020 season, and I think we saw a lot of fans show up, a lot of Dodger fans especially show up in Texas, and it was pretty cool. But I don't know if it was one game, I'd be in agreement with that. So I don't know. It's very interesting. It's a interesting discussion that we had, and I think we figure out a lot more during this next CBA, as well as with the new team. I mean, like what Nate mentioned, I think we're going to see the team from Nashville, and I think they got to add another team just to even it out. I don't know if it's going to be a West Coast team, whether it's in Oregon or the East Coast, like Nate said in Montreal. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. So guys, again, thank you so much for listening to this podcast here at Talkin Halos, making us the best Angels podcast out there. I truly do believe it. If you could follow us on all our social medias, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, go shout us out there. Stop in, say hi, slide into DMs. More than happy to talk with you on any of those sites. You can follow myself on Twitter at Jared_Tims. You can follow Nate on Twitter at NateGreen34. And Brock, you haven't been on in a while, so I've kind of forgot yours, but where can they find you on Twitter? And of course, if you're still streaming, throw that out there too, so people know.
BDROX8 is going to be my Twitter. I won't tell you my Twitch just because I've not been on it long enough for me to even make it interesting. I will be, if I'm still streaming a little bit this year, I'll make sure that on the podcast, I'll shout it out if I get going again.
I'm excited for that. We might have to play a game on here. I know YouTube probably can go back and forth. I may have to play by play or something like that, or I don't know.
Well, as of the other day, I became a top 3,200 player in the world for the month of December. So,
and it's pretty impressive, actually. Like you think about how many people are playing. That's
like 260,000 for the month in total.
Exactly. That's impressive. I haven't played video games in forever, so I wouldn't even know where to start. I think when I used to play, I used to win games 1-0 because I used to just throw curveball sliders, change up in the dirt so people would swing at it, and I'd just bunt or run in the first, and we'd be good. I'd win 1-0 every time. So, Brock, you haven't been on in a while. We went through this with a bunch of people, so I want to get your opinions on this now. I want you to grade the Angels offseason so far, so we can kind of get a place of where you stand, so we can maybe I'll kind of poke the bear a little bit on some occasions and see if we can get some people upset, because that's what I like to do.
Okay. Are you guys okay? So I'm going to give it what I got in my English class, which was an 84%.
Oh, there you go. I was thinking that I was debating about what English class you were talking about, because if it was a ways back, it might not have been too good. But college, I know that like we all kind of step it up in college and a little bit better grades. So
I got an 84, which is like basically a flat B, right? So I'm thinking a flat B, and that's not being pessimistic, but yet it's not being optimistic. I do really like the Syndergaard signing. However, I think that it's I listen to also another podcast, Starting Nine. I'm sure both of you have probably heard of that. They were both talking about the Syndergaard signing, and Dallas Braden was all about it because he's like, well, all the Angels fans are talking about wanting pitching and needing pitching. They go out and put their what's on the table and sign Syndergaard on a gamble, and certain Angels fans aren't happy about it. So when he explained it that way, I'm like, okay, I can't necessarily have it both ways. I do think it's very high risk, but I think that there's also a lot of room for a lot of reward. So it's interesting. I don't know. I want to say that Perry saw where the rest of the offseason could have been going. And that's why he was like, you know what? He just freaking saw an opportunity and he took it, just bada bing, bada boom. Love the Iglesias signing. I don't think there's really anybody in the Angels fan base I could even think of that would have been not a fan of that. I don't think we super overpaid for him. I think it was somewhat in the middle. And Aaron Loop, I like him. I don't honestly know a bunch about him. I kind of just saw what was floating around because I don't really watch the Mets really that much really on the West Coast. And, you know, I just kind of see what probably you guys see on Twitter and scrolling through MLB, looking at stats, whatever. But last year was really good, I think, but he's a little bit high risk. But for what we paid for him, I think it was worth it. I think it was a pretty good risk versus reward there. But I think we have, according to my research, looks like we have around $25 million left before the threshold. Whether we sign anything more, no idea, especially with the whole CBA thing going on and all that other stuff. I have no idea what's in store. The threshold might even go up, and maybe Artie will be willing to spend a little bit more. I have no idea. But at least we'll just say hypothetically with the $25 million that is left, we'll say if I was GM, I would go right up to that threshold, and I have two people that I'd want to get. One would be via trade, who we all know we have talked about 1,000 times on this podcast, as German Marquez. Okay. I believe he's owed $11 million in 2022. I think he's owed 14, I think, in 23. And he has a team option for 24. And free agent signing, and this might get a lot of hate, but I like it. And it would be a 1 or 2 year deal, probably one, because it would be a little lower risk, for 10 to 12 million Kenley Jansen. Because I think if we could get Loop, Iglesias, Jansen in whatever order you want to form it based on, you know, you got lefty, righty, righty, obviously. So depending on lineup and what Matt would want to do with it and whatever, a lot of different ways you go about it. But dude, Jansen has I think if I remember correctly, a 2.37 career ERA. He's never gone above, I don't think, a 3.5 ERA in a season in his whole career. His FIP is literally identical to his ERA, literally identical. 2.37 ERA, 2.37 FIP. So I know, because I think all of us know a lot of Dodgers fans, they let Kenley have it. Every blown save he has, it is like he killed their family. And I'm like, guys,
Dodgers don't appreciate it.
They don't. And I'm like, have you not seen his stats? I'm like,
Dodger fans are at the point with Dodgers, and they didn't. I'll say this wholeheartedly. I don't believe they won a World Series in 2020. That's, you know, it is what it is. They don't appreciate it anymore. They don't appreciate the playoffs. And that's weird to say that. Like, I love the Dodgers, and I know this Angels podcast, and I get a bunch of hate for it. I love the Dodgers. I know Nate loves the Dodgers. I love what they do. I think they're fantastic. They do it the right way. Dodger fans don't appreciate it anymore. And it's fair to an extent. They won a World Series. They haven't gotten one yet. They haven't gotten one since '86. And it is what it is, but they just don't appreciate it anymore. And I'm in agreement with you there, Brock. I think Kenley is an underappreciated commodity in Los Angeles. And I think that it's a big market thing too. You see it in New York a lot. Like, you know, what have you done for me lately? You see it in Anaheim too. You know, like, I think Pujols was underappreciated. I know that he wasn't what he was in St. Louis, but you know, you kind of see it in those big markets. You know, it's a what have you done for me lately, and if something hasn't been done for you lately, you kind of forget about it, and you don't appreciate it anymore. So, saying that Kenley is one of the more underrated players in baseball, I wouldn't disagree with you there. You know, I think that especially out west, I don't disagree with you, and I think Nate and I are kind of on the same page. I think Nate would say that Kenley is only good in the closer role, and I would agree with you.
Whoa. You can't use that word. You can't use that word.
I know that I'm not a fan of the closer, but it's putting the right guy in the right spot, Brock.
Yeah.
One of those things where I think that's something that I've picked up on a lot in the past 6 months or so, and even last year. It's putting the guys in the right spot that needed to be there. Like, a lot of these Angels should be Angels. They just shouldn't be Angels in this spot.
So if we did get Kenley, how would he play with Rysel? Like, would that even work? Because I think Rysel is a mainly ninth guy too. So
exactly. And you look at, this is something that Nate brought up to me way beforehand, like when the Angels got Iglesias was, and there was articles written about it too, is that you look at his stats in the ninth inning compared to when he's not in save situations, or in save situations compared to non-save situations.
I remember those.
Yeah, and you probably were on with us too, and it was like astronomically like different, and it probably also doesn't help that he was a starter at one point, and that's something that I feel like should be remembered in the back of our heads, is that Raisel Iglesias was a starter at one point. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like I've always brought up, I think the Angels, and you would probably be on this, Angels should trade for Craig Kimbrell. I know Nate brought that up beforehand too a lot, and it's one of those things where you look at Kimbrell in save situations and non-save situations, it's a different beast. And we all three played baseball here. It's a different beast in that ninth inning. If you've ever gone out there to get the last 3 outs of a game, compared to the 7th or 8th or something like that. So that's something that for sure I have really been in on lately, is find the guys that get put in the right situation. You can optimize in the right situation. So I'm in on Kenley if he gets put in the right situation, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you with anything that you've said with that next GM thing. I just wanted to kind of get your feel on where exactly you were with the offseason. I know we haven't talked too much.
But I think if we were to add a little bit more, like I don't even know if we're going to get more pitching, because I don't know what we're going to necessarily do, or if we're going to do anything about the whole shortstop / possible second base situation with Fletcher and oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. Help me out here. Renifo.
I mean, you got Tyler Wade there, and
Tyler Wade. So
a bunch of guys you can throw there.
If we're done there, I sure as hell don't think we're getting Correa. If we get Correa, like some people on Twitter are trying to convince other Angels fans that we're getting, I would be mind blown. Not necessarily out of excitement, but out of surprise, because there's no way they could formulate that contract to not yeet us right over that threshold balance. So I don't know. But either way, I think 84% is okay. I'm not mad. I'm not happy necessarily. Well, I am happy. I'm pleased. Not stoked.
They went out and got what they needed. Like,
right.
What was the one thing that everybody wanted? Like, pitching. No matter who you are, whether it's me, whether it's Nate, whether it's Andrew, whether it's some random follower on Facebook, what is the one thing that everybody said that the Angels needed?
Pitching.
And what have they spent all their money on this offseason?
Pitching.
Exactly. I mean, whether you think it's the right guys or not, like, you can be disappointed that they didn't go get Graveman.
Which, dude, that's all relative, because the right guy's not the right guy until he's the right guy, right? Like Robbie Ray 100%. Last year.
They're the right guy until they go above that threshold in dollar limit. And Nate and I have talked about this many times. Like Noah Syndergaard was the right guy, just not at that amount of money, we would say. Like, I mean, I guess at that right amount of money, just not at that years, like giving up what they were. So they're the right guys. Like these guys are the right guys until they get to a certain, dollar amount, like I'm not giving Scherzer that amount of money. So
no.
So right guy, right spot. I think the Angels have done a very good job this offseason. I'm in agreement with you on that one. Nate, I had something that I wanted to ask you. What's the one thing that you say about, I don't know, I forgot what I was going to ask you. I forgot.
Well, what I was going to mention about Iglesias is the big year that they really talk about is when his ERA was the worst, which I believe was 2 years ago, his first year with a new manager. And the biggest thing was he had a huge problem with the manager. He went up to him and said, "Stop using me in tied games. My job is to finish ball games when we are ahead. Stop putting me in tie games. Stop putting me in when we're down. It's a waste of time. I don't pitch well in those situations."
And we saw it at the beginning of the season last year.
And exactly. So when Iglesias is put in those situations, that's when he really, really does well. And I think Jansen's in a very similar spot. And that's why the Dodgers were never able to go and trade for that Craig Kimbrell or Raisel Iglesias, whoever you want to say, because the effects of Kenley Jansen, you can't put him in the 8th inning. He makes too much money to be put in the 8th inning. And also just the attitude in the clubhouse. Like, I don't think he thinks himself as an 8th inning guy. But who knows? Maybe he realizes, like, nobody wants me as a closer. I'll take the 8th inning and pitch really well. But yeah, the Iglesias thing was 3 years ago, I believe, and that was a big deal for him. He even recognizes it, which is crazy.
Absolutely. So
I'm even curious where Chicago's even going. Like the whole Stroman thing was so left field for me. I'm like, they're getting rid of everybody, and then they sign Stroman. I don't know what the hell they're doing. So I mean, maybe Krimble's up for grabs. I don't know. Do you know how much he's making this next year?
16 mil with the White Sox. The White Sox brought him back and literally said,
Oh my God, dude. Did you just notice my brain fart?
yes.
Yeah.
That's why I said White Sox instead of Chicago, because I was like, you're out.
I did the same thing. I was like, what are we talking about here? The Cubs?
I don't think they're getting rid of Kimbrel.
I don't know.
No, they literally came out and said, like, we brought him back to trade him because they gave up so much at the deadline to get him that they were like, we can't just give him $8 million to leave. We have to trade him and get something back, because they gave up Madrigal and Cody Hire, and that was a huge steal for the Cubs to get that much. So the White Sox kind of feel like they got fleeced in that deal, and they were not going to let him walk. So they have been open. That's why they signed Graveman. They have Hendricks. Like, they're willing to make Kimbrel available. It's just, who wants to pay $60 million for the guy?
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, it'll be interesting. I know, if you guys are just tuning into this podcast, I don't know, what do we call this on YouTube now? Live stream? Is that what they call it? It's not technically a live stream. I don't know what it is on YouTube. I'm getting too old for this, but yeah, if you're just tuning in with us here, we do, we talk a little bit about all baseball. We do specifically go in on the Angels a lot more than not, hence the name Talkin' Halos. But, this has been, I think, a successful first YouTube podcast, if that's what we want to call it. I'll figure out the real name for it.
I think it's just a video podcast now.
Blog? Not a blog. People aren't, I don't know.
No, it's not a blog.
We're still learning. It's fine.
We're learning. We're learning as we go here. This is good. This is good. I'm excited. This has been fantastic. I don't even want to go through final thoughts at the moment right now. I think we've kind of hit the nail in the coffin. I'm excited to have Brock back on. I'm excited to have Nate back on. It's been a fantastic, I'm just excited with the new year to get people on, whether, Talking fans want to come on and join us here on YouTube, and we're going to continue to stay on our normal platforms with the podcast as well. It's just, I'm excited. I'm excited. At the end of the day, it's just going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to see kind of where this goes. Like I said, hopefully we're going to be staying on YouTube as much as we can. I know we all got some ugly mugs, but we can make it work. So guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast here at Talkin' Halos, making us, again, the best podcast out there. If you could go follow us wherever you are listening or watching this podcast, be fantastic. If you could also go follow us on all of our social medias. Talkin' Halos is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also go follow myself on Twitter at Jared_Timms. You can follow Nate at NateGreen34 and Brock at BDROX8. I was right on. I remember it now. So, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching, and have a great rest of your day.